ideal way to experience the show? What was the thinking behind this experience in the labyrinth that you and the Quay Brothers set up?
Ask Ron.
Ask Ron, ask you, Stephen, or Timothy. Talk to us about how you might imagine the visitors coming through the museum and what that experience is you created.
Well, I think that in a way, the journey that we've made through the film world has been, every day you can't predict it. So in a sense, one day you're working on a project that you've pushed and you've gotten a commission for. The next, month later, you get a commission for a commercial. You go with it bends you in a direction that you hadn't planned on going, and then, but there's no predictable route that we were planning to make. So in a sense that, and then a theater piece might come in or an opera piece, but when you're thinking of an opera piece, you're also thinking at the same time of another film piece. So in a sense, the journey's not predictable. So we thought that the maze was, I think, something suitable to, because it is about confusion, and our own confusion at times.
For me, it had something to do with the audience. I wanted to give the visitor to the museum. I mean, the Quays have a reputation of being hard to understand, which is, I think, not really true when you really look at the work, and particularly when you look at the broad range of work. What Stephen just said, the wide range of things, the fact that they shift from doing some very serious personal work that they really feel committed to doing a commercial project for the benefit of the studio, or a stage piece with one of their amazing collaborators. I mean, there's so many ways into the Quays' creativity, what they're about, and one helps the other. If you understand, I mean, I said to some folks, I mean, for some people, the Let's Rate his album cover is going to be, oh, I remember that, they did that, and that's a way to get into the work, or a stage piece that they're fond of, or even a television commercial. It's just the first step into getting into all the work. And the notion for me that the maze ended up with this kind of Quay multiplex at the end, where there were these screening rooms with different genres, documentary genre that they'd done in a certain period, and with the dance work, Street of Crocodiles in its own space. But that was another way of approaching them, discovering it.
I was intrigued. You begin also with a kind of autobiographical beginning and a kind of mise en scène with the trees, but also one shifts quickly into, I was intrigued with sort of the early influences, or you were generous in a way of recognizing people and other artists, or Polish film posters, for example, and they became a part of that exhibition. Is that reflective also even of your studio?
I think the studio abounds in this reflective glow that has always been preeminent. I mean, in the sense that the influences that we have are multiplied by being two. So there's two of us to digest and expand or choose how we defend certain choices that we should make. And I think also that the two really crucial influences which we've staged was that imagine that you're in a Fairview Village is in no man's land really for us, way outside Philadelphia, outside Norristown. And there with our art teacher, he introduced us to, he said, I think you should meet one man. It was Rudolf Freund, the scientific illustrator. So I think in that sense, it was the first time that we had really met an artist of that kind of caliber who set such a high tone for something to aim for. And he was just, he'd receive us, with no shirt on. He was a big Hemingway-esque man. And we'd just go there, just stop in and spend the whole afternoon with him. And then sit with him in his library while he worked on his artwork. But then, at that point, then we got into the Philadelphia College of Art, and day one we walked in, and there was this fabulous exhibition of for us, the heroic Polish poster from the 1960s, which is a collection upstairs. And so there was this other huge diametrically imaginative realm, rather than Rudolf Freund's work was very documentary, specifically scientific illustration. And then there was this other side which bristled with imagery and typography. So there were two strains, I think, that have been marked us for this journey that we're making now, still.
So this strain, one strain being a kind of nature and discovery of the bizarre world of nature, and the other a kind of human interior imagination, it sounds like, a kind of, maybe this is the enigma.
Well, I think the documentary side is very strong in us, which we really were, you're attentive, you're vigilant and attentive, but at the same time, you can move in a direction which is purely imaginative and doesn't have any reference to the documentary. So I think it's two poles that we balance, and that one feeds the other very powerfully.
Ron, when you visited the studio, what did you find? I'm curious about the process of working and whether there are many assistants or lots of clutter or whatever. What was it like that first time you walked into the studio?
As I said, it's just twins. It's just them. And the first thing you see is a table, and it usually has wine on it. It's very inviting, and you actually stop there first for a while before you venture beyond that point. It's a working studio. I mean, they were making films. They were making film when I was there. Both times that I was there, I got to look at the sets, and we spent an amazing day where they were pulling out stuff that eventually ended up in the galleries from various corners of the studio when we were putting them on a stand, and I was photographing them to put our checklist together. And I began to ask questions, and they would turn up some films in the back corner, and the coffin was the coffin of a surgeon's journey was in the back hall with bubble wrap, and that's when this collection opened up. It's these major shows. This is the third of the major what I call collection shows. They really do come out of a collection. It comes with the discovery of a collection, and in this case, again, this is a collection that people had not had any experience of, and I had the real privilege of selecting what I thought was worth being in the gallery. You know, by artists who were not gallery artists. The Quays did not set out to become gallery artists. They put work in gallery. A lot of the work in the gallery is not intended for a gallery. So that was the challenge, and it was interesting to do that, to ask them a question, and they would also feed me little bits of little clues. I would say they would pass me. They would say, "There's a Scientific American cover of a blue jay looking at two butterflies. If you can see if you can find that, all right, it'd be nice to find them." And I tracked it down. I went to the Yale Science Museum. We eventually found Rudy's daughter in Connecticut, and that's how the art that's in the exhibition ended up in space. The same with the Polish posters. Did we have any Polish posters in the collection? Of course, the museum is a very significant collection. The twins selected from that collection. The photograph of their mother, they would just little hints of things they would pass on to me without any necessarily telling me how they want it might be used. The notion of, one thing, it's the gallery is populated with the artists. As you said, the generosity of spirit that they have, their interest is just their enthusiasm for Freund and the Polish poster artists specifically. That's why we have the tear sheets. And Baltzer's photograph and Emma Hognos and Stockhausen. We made a point of putting their images in the gallery. That was something that they liked and I was very enthusiastic about. So there's a cast of characters that you follow through, in addition to them, throughout the exhibition.
There are a few works that, I mean, many works stand out, but some that really caught my attention as I walked through the installation this morning. One is the series of drawings. I think they're called the black drawings. Is that what you're calling them? They seem to be a pivotal moment in the show in some way, a kind of hinge moment. Can you speak about those and what they mean for you?
I think it came at a moment when we were tramping up and down to New York City from Philadelphia.